The afternoon light in Providence, Rhode Island slanted through the tall courthouse windows, filtering across the polished floors and the quiet murmur of clerks finishing up their day. It was a Friday, always a long week's end for Judge Frank Caprio, who prided himself on treating every person who entered his courtroom with patience, fairness, and humanity. Most of the docket that day had been routine traffic fines, minor disputes, noise complaints. Nothing unusual, until the final folder landed before him. On the front of the manila file, clipped neatly with a note, were the words that made Judge Caprio's brows lift slightly. Defendant Jessica Morgan, daughter of Police Chief Robert Morgan. Victim requests full prosecution. That small handwritten note spoke volumes. Caprio leaned back in his chair for a brief moment, taking in the name. He knew Robert Morgan personally, had known him for decades, a man of discipline, integrity, and a decorated record. But this was his daughter. The charges read assault and battery, racial intimidation, criminal mischief. It wasn't a parking ticket, it was serious, very serious. The bailiff's voice broke through the low hum of the courtroom. Case of the state versus Jessica Morgan. A door opened, and in walked a young woman, 22 years old, tall, slender, and walking with the air of someone who believed the world owed her space. Designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, glossy hair styled to perfection, and a black leather jacket that probably cost more than most people's rent. Even her steps sounded entitled, the soft echo of expensive heels that had never known discomfort. As she approached the defendant's podium, she didn't look around. She didn't acknowledge the gallery or the bailiff. She only smirked slightly, as if she was there by accident, inconvenienced by people who didn't understand how things really worked. Judge Caprio began, his tone even but unmistakably firm. Miss Morgan, you're charged with assault and battery against a Mr. Kareem Hassan, an Uber driver, on the evening of October 8th. You're also charged with racial intimidation and criminal mischief for damages to his vehicle. How do you plead? Jessica shifted her weight, crossing her arms with a scoff. Not guilty. This is ridiculous. The driver was being difficult, and I barely touched him. People blow things way out of proportion these days. Her tone dripped with sarcasm. The courtroom murmured faintly. Judge Caprio raised his eyes from the file. Miss Morgan, the victim provided photographs of injuries, a police report, and medical documentation. On what basis are you claiming this is exaggerated? She gave a small laugh, shaking her head. I'm a wonder 15-pound girl, Your Honor. How much harm could I possibly cause? The guy's just trying to get money out of me. Before the judge could respond, the prosecutor rose from the state's table. Your Honor, if I may. Mr. Hassan's vehicle had a dash cam installed. The entire incident is on video. The statement shifted the atmosphere instantly. A tension crept into the room. Jessica's smirk faltered for a split second, but she recovered quickly. That video doesn't show everything, she said quickly. It doesn't show how he was provoking me. Perhaps, Judge Caprio said mildly, we should watch it then. He turned to the bailiff. Please set up the video. As the equipment was being connected to the monitor, Jessica nonchalantly took out her phone and began typing. The judge noticed immediately. Miss Morgan, he said sharply, please put that phone away. I'm just texting my dad, she said, not even glancing up. He should know what's happening. You may contact him after this hearing, Caprio said, voice tightening. Phone away, now. Jessica sighed dramatically, making sure her displeasure was visible, and dropped the phone into her designer purse with exaggerated annoyance. The screen flickered to life. The prosecutor pressed play. It was night. The footage came from inside an Uber, dimly lit, showing both the road ahead and the car's interior. Jessica sat in the back seat, illuminated by passing streetlights. The audio was crystal clear. I said take Benefit Street. Jessica's voice filled the courtroom, sharp and commanding. Not this way. Are you stupid? The driver's calm response came, his tone patient and professional. Mom, Benefit Street is closed for construction. The GPS is routing us another way. We'll still arrive on time. I don't care about the app. Jessica snapped. I know this city better than you. You just got here, didn't you? Go where I tell you. Mom, he said gently, I'm following the GPS. We'll be there in 5 minutes. That's when her voice turned venomous. Listen to me, you terrorist. Take Benefit Street, or I'm giving you 1 star and reporting you. A ripple of shock swept through the courtroom. The words hung in the air like a slap. The driver, Kareem, remained calm, though his knuckles tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Ma'am, please don't use that language. I'm just trying to do my job. Your job? Jessica laughed cruelly. Your job is to do what I say. You're probably not even legal. Should I call Icy? She chuckled darkly. Oh, wait, I can do better than that. My father's the police chief. 1 call, and you're done in this city. Even on the screen, you could see Kareem's shoulders tense, the air thick with humiliation and fear. In the courtroom, Judge Caprio's expression grew colder, his hands clasped tightly on the bench. People in the gallery began whispering in disbelief. The video continued. They reached the destination, a downtown restaurant. Kareem politely announced, We've arrived. Jessica opened the door, then stopped halfway. Actually, I changed my mind. Take me somewhere else. Ma'am, he said evenly. The ride has ended. You'll need to request another trip. Are you refusing service? That's discrimination. That's not how Uber works, he replied quietly. Jessica suddenly reached forward, snatching Kareem's phone from the dashboard mount and throwing it into the back seat. Now you can't end the ride. Drive. Mom, he said, trying to keep calm. Please return my phone. Make me. Kareem unbuckled, reaching back slowly to retrieve his phone. Without warning, Jessica screamed and began striking him. 3 sharp hits to the face, followed by her scratching his neck. The night vision camera captured the thin line of blood appearing beneath her nails. You assaulted me, she shrieked. You terrorist piece of garbage! You attacked me! Kareem, clearly stunned and bleeding, said shakily. I'm calling the police. Jessica laughed bitterly. Go ahead! They work for my dad! You'll be deported by Monday. Then she slammed the door, but not before kicking the side mirror off the car. Send me the bill, terrorist, she shouted as she walked away. Oh wait, you can't afford a lawyer. The video ended. Silence, total heavy silence. No one breathed. The only sound was the faint hum of the monitor shutting off. Judge Caprio slowly removed his glasses. He didn't look angry, just profoundly disappointed. Miss Morgan, he said after a long pause, you just watched that footage. Do you maintain your not guilty plea? Jessica's face flushed, but she crossed her arms stubbornly. That video doesn't show how he was provoking me before it started recording, she stammered. He was being hostile. Miss Morgan, the judge said quietly but firmly, that video shows you using racial slurs, threatening to have a man deported, physically assaulting him, destroying his property, and then falsely accusing him of attacking you. That is not provocation. That is abuse. He was being disrespectful, she protested. He was being professional, Caprio replied, his voice sharp now. While you were being a bigot. Jessica gasped audibly. You can't call me that. I just did, he said. Because that's what we all saw. A young woman using racial slurs threatening violence and abusing her father's position to intimidate a hardworking man. Jessica's chin trembled slightly. I want my lawyer. You're entitled to one, said Caprio. But right now, I need your plea. Her confidence finally began to crack. If I plead guilty, what happens? That depends, Caprio said. But understand, whether you plead guilty or go to trial, that footage will be seen by a jury, and I doubt any jury will react kindly to what we just witnessed. Jessica bit her lip, glancing toward the back of the room as if her father might appear and save her. But he wasn't there. Fine, she said bitterly. Guilty. Are you happy? This isn't about happiness, Miss Morgan, Caprio replied. It's about accountability. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the victim, Mr. Hassan, is present and would like to make a statement. Caprio nodded. Please. A man in his mid-40s stood slowly, dressed neatly in a blue button-down shirt and tie. There was a visible bandage across his neck and faint bruising along his cheek. He walked to the podium with quiet dignity, holding a folded piece of paper but not reading from it. Your Honor, he began, voice slightly accented but clear. My name is Kareem Hassan. I came to America from Syria 7 years ago. I am a legal permanent resident. I have worked very hard to build a new life here. I drive Uber to support my family while I study to become a nurse. He looked directly at Jessica, who avoided his gaze. That night, Miss Morgan called me a terrorist. She said she would have me deported. She hit me. She broke my phone. But what hurt most was the fear, because she said her father was the police chief. I believed her. I thought if I reported it, I would be the one arrested. His voice trembled slightly. I almost stayed silent. But then my 10-year-old daughter asked me about my injuries. I didn't want to lie. When I told her what happened, she said, Baba, you always tell me to stand up to bullies. You have to stand up to her. He looked back to the judge. So I am here, not for money, for justice. So my daughter knows that in America, even the daughter of the police chief must follow the law. Applause broke out in the courtroom. Even the bailiff didn't stop it right away. When silence returned, Judge Caprio spoke softly but with authority. Mr. Hassan, thank you for your courage. You are absolutely right. No one is above the law. Not even the daughter of the police chief. He turned to Jessica. Miss Morgan, you've heard your victim speak. A man who came here seeking safety, working hard to support his family. And you treated him with cruelty and contempt. She stared down, face pale. For the assault and battery charge, Caprio continued, I'm imposing a fine of 1,000. For racial intimidation, 1,000 more. For criminal mischief and property damage, 500. That's 2,500 in total. Jessica's head jerked up. 2,500. For a few scratches? For assault, bigotry, and abuse of power, Caprio corrected coldly. But that's not all. You'll perform 100 hours of community service, specifically at the Rhode Island Refugee and Immigrant Center. You will help people like Mr. Hassan build their new lives here. Perhaps then you'll learn that immigrants are not terrorists. They're human beings. Jessica's mouth fell open. 100 hours. I have a job. I have a life. You should have thought of that before you attacked someone, Caprio replied. In addition, you'll attend 12 weeks of anger management and 12 weeks of diversity training. This is insane, she said under her breath, then caught herself. I mean, Your Honor, isn't that excessive for a first offense? A first offense we know about, Caprio said pointedly. Something tells me this isn't the first time you've used your father's name to intimidate people. You don't know anything about me. I know what I saw on that video, he said evenly. A young woman who thinks her father's badge is her personal shield. He paused. And Miss Morgan, I'm sending the transcript of this hearing, along with the video, to the Providence Police Commission. They deserve to know that the police chief's daughter invoked his name to threaten a citizen. Jessica froze. You can't do that. That'll ruin my father's career. Your actions might ruin his career, Caprio said quietly. Not my duty to report them. Her confidence collapsed. For the first time, she looked like what she truly was, a frightened, immature young woman who'd never been told no. Her father's career. The words echoed in her head like a warning bell. But it was too late. The courtroom remained silent, every person still absorbing the weight of the veteran's words. The air was thick with emotion, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Judge Caprio's eyes glistened as he leaned forward, his voice softer now, almost reverent. Sir, the judge began, you have no idea how much your service means to us. You stood for this nation when it needed you most. You've carried burdens that most of us can't imagine. And yet, here you are, humble, respectful, wearing your uniform not for pride but for remembrance. The veteran nodded gently. Your Honor, he said quietly, this uniform isn't for me. It's for them, the men who never came home. Every time I wear it, I remind myself that I owe them my best, even if it's just showing up here to face what I did wrong. His words echoed through the courtroom, reaching the hearts of every listener. Even the court officers stood taller, their eyes soft with newfound respect. This wasn't just another traffic case anymore. It was a living lesson in honor, humility, and sacrifice. Judge Caprio paused, visibly moved. You said you wear this uniform for those who didn't make it back, he said thoughtfully. And I think today, you've reminded all of us what true honor looks like. The judge turned slightly to the audience. We live in a time when people often forget what sacrifice means. But here we have a man who still lives by that code, who still believes in duty, in discipline, and in respect, even when no one's watching. A faint murmur of agreement rippled through the room. The veteran stood motionless, his gaze fixed ahead, not seeking sympathy or applause, just standing as he always had in quiet dignity. Judge Caprio then opened the veteran's file, scanning the details of the traffic violation. It says here you were cited for a minor speeding infraction, he said, glancing up. Do you recall what happened that day? Yes, sir, the veteran replied. I was on my way to the cemetery. My buddy from my unit was laid to rest that morning. I didn't want to be late. I guess I wasn't watching my speed. I wasn't thinking about the road, only about him. The courtroom fell silent again. A tear rolled down one woman's cheek. Even the clerk looked away, trying to compose herself. Judge Caprio exhaled slowly, his voice thick with emotion. You were on your way to honor a fallen soldier, and you got pulled over. Yes, Your Honor, the veteran answered. I told the officer why, but rules are rules. I didn't argue. He was doing his job. That's the kind of man you are, Judge Caprio said. Even when you have every reason to defend yourself, you still respect authority. He closed the folder and looked directly at the veteran. Sir, I want you to know, there will be no fine today, no penalty. You've already paid a price that none of us could ever repay. Your service, your character, and your humility speak louder than anything in this courtroom. The veteran's lips trembled slightly. He stood straight, saluted the judge, and said in a trembling voice, Thank you, sir. I didn't come here for sympathy. I just wanted to do the right thing. Judge Caprio returned the salute, his own eyes welling up. You did? He said simply. You always have. The audience broke into soft applause. Not the kind of clapping that fills an auditorium, but the kind that comes from deep respect. Even those who came for their own cases wiped their eyes. Something sacred had just taken place. After the applause faded, the judge leaned back and spoke gently. I often say that in this courtroom we don't just judge cases. We learn about life. And today, you've reminded us what it means to live with integrity. Thank you, sir. You've honored us all. The veteran smiled faintly, then slowly walked out of the courtroom. His steps were deliberate, steady, dignified. Each footfall seemed to echo the march of a lifetime, through jungles, deserts, and memories that never fade. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd had gathered. People who had watched the proceedings on the local broadcast. Some approached him hesitantly, shaking his hand, thanking him, telling him how proud they were. A young boy no older than 10 tugged at his sleeve. Sir, the boy said shyly, are you a real soldier? The veteran knelt down, his eyes softening. I was, he said gently. But now I just try to be a good man." The boy smiled wide. "I want to be like you one day." The veteran chuckled softly. "Then remember this," he said. "Being a soldier isn't about fighting. It's about standing up for what's right, no matter how small it seems." The boy nodded seriously, as if the words were carved into his heart. The veteran placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you're already halfway there." He stood up, adjusted his uniform, and walked away, not as a man who had just avoided a fine, but as a hero who had unknowingly inspired a new generation. Inside the courthouse, Judge Caprio sat in silence for a moment before turning to the court clerk. "That," he said softly, "is why I love this job. Every day you see the best and worst of humanity. And once in a while, someone walks in and reminds you that there's still good in this world." The clerk nodded. "He really was something, wasn't he?" "Yes," the judge said, staring thoughtfully at the empty doorway where the veteran had stood moments ago. "Something rare. Something we should never forget." And in that quiet courtroom, where so many stories of hardship and justice played out every day, one man's act of simple dignity had become a lasting memory. A reminder that true honor never fades, and real heroes don't need recognition. They just keep showing up, quietly, humbly, and faithfully, because that's who they are.